space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim, and with me, of course, is Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And today we're talking about, we've got another Barclay episode. We're working our way through the Barclays. This one, we haven't even got an excuse for this one. This isn't even a holodeck one, is it?
It's
with Barclay.
I've watched this twice this week, ready for this. And I can see why it's not one of the episodes that I go back to.
Yeah, both of them this week. I'm not, they're all right.
Yeah,
they're
okay, but neither of them are. I want to watch some Star Trek. I know I'll watch this.
Yeah,
and neither of these two episodes were jumped at top at list.
No, definitely not. And the other one being Sanctuary that we're looking at from D9.
This one with Barclay. I was thinking it's. I don't know who wrote it. I should have looked at if it's a different writer than normal. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like the third. Right, we've got Dwight Schultz is going to guest on another episode. He'll guest another episode. So, he has. They've obviously seen something about the holodecks and thought he has, and sort of put his holodeck addiction to he's got phobia about the future technology.
Yeah, it's like I can sort of see why. My take on this episode is that I think the entire episode was built around that special effect where they beam in and you see the inside of the transporter beam. I feel like someone said, we've been beaming people for 6 years on TNG, 3 years in original series, 5 movies, whatever. We want to show what it actually looks like when you're being beamed. And they've gone, right, how do we get an episode out of that? And then they've cobbled this together to kind of do that. And then I suppose the thing is you get, who could be scared of beaming? We've seen all the main crew beam here, there, and everywhere. So you either have a one-off, one-episode character that you never see again, or you use a guest star, so they've gone with Barclay. We know he's got social anxiety, so maybe, but I agree with you. It's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, we have, with Chief O'Brien is in this a lot as well.
Yeah.
And Chief O'Brien is Chief O'Brien because he never went through the academy.
Mm-hmm.
But Barclay is a junior lieutenant because he's gone through all the academy. So he's obviously got evaluations on a regular basis. He's gone through that. How the hell has he passed a single psych evaluation?
It's true.
And all that. He's scared of everything. He's addicted to holodecks. He's got social anxiety. It just doesn't... And we've already, Next Generation establishes that. Because we see it with Wesley, when Wesley's applying for the academy, that it's only, the fraction of a % of the best that get into the academy. And it's all how would this guy be classed as a fraction of the best?
True, unless he's just really, really good at what he does. But and he is capable in the episodes we see.
Yeah.
But not sort of best of the best. And that just reminded me, you talking about Wesley getting in the academy. There's that episode where he does that test and they're like, this is the test where you face your biggest fear. So for Barclay, that transporting, was that the whole test? Right, we're going to beam you down. That's it.
Well, it could be anything because, it comes across that he's got fears about all sorts and all that in the end. That he's got all sorts of anxieties.
He's scared of people, women in particular, the real world, transporters.
He's scared of authority figures where Starfleet doesn't seem like the ideal place to want to spend a career if you have problems with authority figures.
Very true. Especially when
I know that because it's a military. However you look at it, it's not a very functional military by the time of Next Generation, but it's still a military.
It's still got the command structure, and Barclay's not on the command path, so he's always going to have someone in a position of authority above him. Just going back to what you said about the writer, I've looked it up, and it's actually Brannon Braga, who obviously is the more prolific writers, so we can't blame it on an inexperienced writer either.
Yeah, like maybe it was just meant to be a random crew member. Maybe Dwight Schultz. Maybe Dwight Schultz agent went, Dwight's available for an episode this season if you want to.
Yeah, it's probably one of them where it was a case of when his schedule was open, they had to try and fit a Barclay episode in, because just talking about it sort of structurally where it fits in the season, this is literally, we've had Times Arrow Part 2, and then this is
episode 2.
Yeah, so it's your first regular episode after the resolution of the cliffhanger, and it's a weird one. It's a guest star focused episode instead of one of the main crew. So it is, we're sort of dancing around it, but it's an insubstantial episode. There's not much to it at all. So yeah, we'll have a bit of a closer look at it though. So we get the USS Yosemite, and Yosemite, and that's observing a plasma streamer, and
and a birth class, which we saw in Search for Spock.
It's the first time,
So it's a TOS era ship. And even then, it was a small science vessel. The Constitution class was massive compared to it.
True. If they built a ship for the movies, they were going to use them in Next Gen. That's why we get lots of Excelsior class ships, lots of Aberth class ships.
Well, we're still in the era that it was all physical models.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got it, you need to use it.
Like they did actually, Next Generation. Back in '86, when they were still working on sort of pre-production, they did look at doing it in CGI. And if you search the internet, you can see the CGI footage from the beginning. Right. But it was very good CGI for the '80s.
Yeah.
But they decided not to go with it because the technology wasn't good enough.
Well, that's it. I mean, you only have to look at Babylon 5. I mean, I love Babylon 5, but the effects, they were bad even at the time.
They outdated almost before it was shown.
It was just a case of the CGI was not good enough to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I'm glad.
And obviously the decision was made that they'd go with physical models for the Next Gen, and then you get the expensive physical models.
Exactly.
So you're going to get Aberth classes and you're going to get Excelsiors, which is why, like in Best of Both Worlds, the best that they sent to War 359 was Aberth classes and Excelsiors, 100 years out of date ships to defend Earth.
Science ships anyway, so probably not a good idea to fight the Borg. But there we go. So it ends up with this thing of, we're going to bridge the transporters and we've got to beam everyone over one by one. And Barclay, I don't think it's Dwight Schultz's performance. He's doing what's been scripted for him. But as soon as it's you've got to go on the transporter, all of a sudden it's, and the music's like, da, 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 da. And
and I don't know if you noticed, but Miles O'Brien has been saying all along, every time he's beamed one, he's gone, sinking transporters, buffers aligned, energising. And then when it's Barclay's turn, it's sinking transporters. Duh, duh, duh. Buffers aligned. Duh, duh, duh.
Yeah.
And it's all drawn out longer and longer.
Yeah. that's another thing I wanted to say about this one is I feel like the reason, because O'Brien's pretty much like the second build character really in this. It's almost the supporting act. And I wonder if that's a bit of, because at this point they knew he was going to DS9, so they're like, let's flesh him out a little bit.
There was with that. There was also like part of the reason he got the DS9 part is because the fans really liked him, so they were trying to bring him in more and more regular,
exactly.
but he was still a part character. Like his first appearance, he's been in it since Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah, exactly, definitely.
But he didn't have a name at that point.
No, and he was in the wrong colour shirt, but he was still there. That's the point. So Barclay basically has a panic attack, runs off, goes straight away to talk to Troy. She must get sick of Barclay turning up, and it's weird because he's kind of like blaming himself for it, which is a bit odd because it's like, you can't help it. If we accept that he's got this fear of transporters, he might be in the wrong job, but it's not. It's not.
And it does say, it goes, if you check my record, look at how many shuttle hours I've actually logged avoiding transporters.
It's a reasonable way of hand waving it, but it is a bit unbelievable. He must have had to beam at some point.
Yeah,
there's no way.
It's also beaming in a strange way here, isn't it? That they're not beaming normally. They only go one at a time. And
yeah, that's very true.
So maybe if he's beaming down to a planet and there's a landing party of half a dozen of them, he's been okay with that sort of thing.
And it's a bit of bad luck, isn't it? Like, you've tried to avoid beaming as much as possible, and then when you finally do, you happen to have this major issue going on in the transporters. Like Alanis Morissette could write a song about it. He's talking to Troy, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm worried my career would be over." Like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Barclay.
It does.
That's like being in the Navy and being afraid of swimming. It is.
I don't think that's actually a real problem. Actually, being in the Navy and being afraid of swimming.
It is if you don't.
It's not actually. Yeah, but it's not something that you generally have as a thing with the Navy. They're almost just like soldiers, and modern ships are so like naval ships are so big anyway.
True, yeah, you could probably never see the water if you were. So Troy comes up with this plexing thing, and it seems to work really well. Straight away, Barclay's like, "Yeah, that's done it. I've got me endorphin rush. I'm off." And I'm not sure, is this a real thing? Like, I'm doing it now. I don't think it does release endorphins. I don't know. Everybody who's listening, try plexing and let us know
plexing.
If it releases
an endorphin rush
and it's really good, let us know. I'm not convinced, but anyway, so it makes you wonder. Like, maybe that's really good for beta Zeds because they've got like a G spot or something behind their ear, but humans, like, I don't know why she's recommending this. So yeah, when he gets to the transporter room, then he's gonna beam over. So O'Brien's like, I know what I'll do to pep him up a little bit. I'm gonna tell him about how scared of spiders I am, and I'll tell him about these big bloody Talarian hook spiders with half a metre long. Like, I'm not sure that's gonna really G him up, O'Brien, but he's trying to be nice, O'Brien's always, apart from to Bashir in the early days, he's always nice to people. So
yeah, he is. He's sort of like, well, he is man of the people, isn't he? It's why he's the most important figure in Starfleet history.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so we get the transporter point of view shot, which is very nice. I'm not sure the way they show it works because they show Barclay in the middle of the beam sort of opening his mouth and moving and stuff, and it's like, no, at that point, you're pretty much just atoms. So
yeah, you sort of deconstructed them and put back together. Like, there's arguments that when you go through a transporter, you're killed, and then a copy of you is made.
Yeah, and that seems to make sense. I mean, it's an interesting one, though.
Yeah, it's like you dematerialize. So, okay, so all my atoms are broken down and turned into an electric signal.
Yeah.
And then sent like a radio wave to somewhere else, where that radio wave is turned back into some other atoms.
Yeah.
So where did... Yeah. So...
Where did you go, sort of thing?
Yeah.
I mean, they seem uncommon in the Star Trek universe. I mean, like, there's that one... it's one of the terrible season 1 episodes. The one where Picard...
That doesn't narrow it down much.
No, it doesn't. It's Lonely Among Us, maybe, or Home Soil. And Picard gets turned into something in a cloud, and he shows them where he is by making a P appear on the console. But in that one, he basically gets deconstructed into energy and comes back again. And he's still Picard. So I think we have to accept in the Star Trek universe that you can get dematerialized and rematerialized, and it's still you.
Well, we have Scotty survives in the transporter buffer for 75 years.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously we've had all the other accidents where, Tuvix where we jumbled people up, or Kirk where we split him. It's no wonder Barclay's afraid, actually, all this stuff that happens. So the dodgy music starts again when Barclay's going to beam back this time. So we know that this ain't going to go right. And this is when he sees the weird worm thing. And then...
Yeah, I'll go with worm.
Yeah, we'll go with worm. And then to be fair, I nearly got really annoyed at this stage because Barclay sort of starts skirting around it with Geordi. Like, have you ever had a weird experience? But Geordi actually pushes it. So it shows that Geordi's got Barclay a bit better figured out now, because he's like, right, Barclay's saying weird things. I need to find out what it is, because otherwise it's going to end up being a disaster.
Well, we have seen him in the Nth Degree where he gets taken over by an alien presence.
Yeah, exactly. So Geordi's obviously like, right, I'm not letting this one go. If he's asking about weird experiences, I need to find out what's going on here. So they do go and check it out and everything, and there's this talk of it could be transporter psychosis.
And they go, well, there hasn't been, and it's sort of like there hasn't been a case of that for 50 years since we did so and so got invented. Okay, and then Geordi says there hasn't been a transporter accident, or there's only been 2 or 3 transporter accidents in the last 10 years. Now, I think that we should look at just the next generation, and I bet there's more than 3 transporter episodes by the time of season 6.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking straight away there's Riker's twin, but we don't find out about that until later in season 6, so we can't really count that one.
We can't count that one.
But yeah,
I bet that we can find more than 3 episodes just on the Enterprise that have got transporters. Something going wrong with transporters.
Yeah,
because it is a popular way. I haven't checked, but I'd have to. But this is just one ship, so we've got a fleet of thousands of ships that have these sort of things going on them.
I'm willing to bet you're right on that one. There's a good scene where Barclay goes and gets the computer to tell him what the symptoms are. And everyone talks about Star Trek predicting things like, mobile phones and iPads and so on. This is absolutely what people do now. As soon as you get a symptom of anything, you Google it and you convince yourself that you've got
I've got that.
Particularly over the last year, when everybody's been, rightly very concerned about health. But this is
I actually bet if it's actually looked at this last year, you'll probably find that, I know that we've had, if you take COVID out of the equation, that apart from that people have actually been healthier because we haven't been mingling and passing germs amongst each other.
You're most likely right.
I know that there's calls in America that they want to keep masks mandatory on the subway systems.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Because there's people saying, I've gone all year, I've not had cold and I've not had flu, and it's the first time ever.
Exactly, yeah. Thinking about it, I've not had. I mean, I've got a bit of hay fever now, but that's.
I've got hay fever, but I've not really had.
Yeah, I've not had a cold.
I normally get flu at some point, and I've not had flu this year.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? So. Yeah, and then you get Barclay sort of check. He does that thing as well, which again we all do when we read the internet. Is you read what the symptoms are, and you go, "Oh, actually, my arm does feel a bit weird." And Barclay's doing the same thing. He's like eyesight, so he's checking his eyes all the time. And Data notices that he's doing it and everything. Then Troy relieves him of duty because he's pacing about and everything. And you get this bit where he's running this relaxation program, and it's just birds squawking. It's awful.
Yeah, but I don't know if you've noticed. There's what do they call it? Is it ASMR?
Oh, ASMR, yeah, or whatever.
And there's all sorts of these things, and there's like fall asleep listening to storms. We had a storm here last night. It bloody woke. I was trying to go to bed when it started. I couldn't bloody sleep.
Yeah, there was no chance of sleeping through that. I think that's
worse. But people listen to weird things. People do listen to weird things. So he maybe finds birds squawking relaxing.
Yeah, there's the bit in Toy Story 2 where they stitch Woody's arm back on. Apparently, that's a really good one. I don't know.
Yeah.
So. Then he has this weird arm thing where it basically looks like his arm's beaming. And this is when he goes to investigate, and he tries to blag O'Brien, like, oh, you've got to beam me back over, but O'Brien knows what's going on. So again, this is what I mean about, I think this is where they're developing O'Brien a little bit. He's actually getting a bit more interaction rather than just standing there and pressing the buttons. They're doing something with him. And he sees the worm again. And I like the next bit because it is showing that Barclay's developing, because he goes to the senior staff and he's like, right, I'm not going mad. I've seen this thing. We need to look into it. And he's got the confidence to do that. Rather than...
I'll tell you what I do like in all this lead up.
About it.
That Troy has removed him from duty. Because after the nth degree, because they should have removed him from duty in the nth degree, as we said last week, they've actually done it straight away here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like last time you took over at ship. You're on the watch list, Barclay. We're not taking any chances.
Yeah. But they've obviously learned the lesson.
So it starts wrapping up really from the... Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, it does start wrapping up pretty quickly. Like, they realise something's happening, and whatever's happened to the Yosemite is affecting the Enterprise. And they try and recreate the accident and discover that there's life form.
Yeah, well, we have that weird one in sickbay, don't we, where Crusher's examining one of the dead bodies that they've found. And his vital signs keep starting up different ones.
Yeah.
Which is what's going on here. Like, he's got a heartbeat, stops again. He's breathing, stops again. He's got brainwaves, stops again.
Yeah.
But Crusher can't find what it is.
That guy did not look in good shape. But...
well, he was dead.
Well, of course not. Crusher can only find out what it is when it's a Crusher episode. Yeah, if it's not your episode, you're not going to solve the problem.
Solve it.
So they come up with this really long-winded... What we're going to do is we're going to extract the microbes, and it's going to work like a filter, and it's going to do this, and it's going to do that, and it's really over the top technobabble. It's one of them where when you're watching it and you think, yeah, I ain't got a clue what they're talking about now. Like, usually, even though it's all made up technology and stuff, usually you can sort of go, all right, you know, I can kind of see where they're going with this, but this one just goes off on one, like, we're going to do this, and we're going to put the baryon sweep and the filter and blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, Barclay beams again. While they're trying to do this, he grabs one of the worms, and it turns out that it's the missing crew members from the Yosemite. And
Yeah.
I like how they call security. They're like, oh, something else is coming through with him. Get security. Worf turns up. So let's go into Worf's point of view for a minute. So Worf gets the call. There's potential intruder in sickbay. You need to come down. He struts down. He's ready for a ruck. First thing is, Barclay goes, you need to go in and grab the worms and pull them back with you. And Worf goes, all right, and just jumps in. And
Yeah.
What?
It's not like, okay, I know what to do.
Yeah, all right. And he goes in, and yeah. So I thought he bought into that pretty quickly, did Worf there. But it's lucky he does because, you know, they managed to save
I think that Starfleet crew members are taught that at 40 minutes,
yeah,
whatever you're told to do, go with it because it's how you're getting out of this.
that's it. We're wrapping up the episode now. We've front-loaded this episode with too much technobabble, so we've only got 5 minutes to wrap it up.
Yeah.
And that includes the credits.
So whatever you're taught... So Starfleet Academy, you're taught at 40 minutes, whatever you're told to do, do it because that's how you'll get out of it.
Yeah, and also if it's a guest character, so if it's someone that you only see once or twice a year, they're going to be really important when you see them. So you need to do whatever they tell you. 'Cause this is not a Worf episode. This is a Barclay episode. So you do what Barclay tells you. Yeah. And then we get a final scene with O'Brien where we meet O'Brien's pet tarantula. Never see that again in DS9. And
no, it's never mentioned again, is it?
It feels like one of those things that they're putting in for the DS9 writers to pick up on. Like, oh, look, we've given O'Brien a pet tarantula. And DS9 have obviously gone, yeah, we're not having him have a tarantula. Just forget about that. Yeah, cheers for that next gen.
Yeah, I think it is something that they do, isn't it? That they do load up characters and that. And we've talked about this with other shows, and you see early on things that are never mentioned again.
Yeah.
And it's obviously you load them up with all sorts, and then you go with what works.
Exactly, and this is something we're a lot more used to now, like with all us like connected universes and your Marvel and your DC and everything. So we do this now where we have minor characters and we give lots and lots of stuff about them because in the back of our mind we're probably going to make a film or a TV show about them one day. So let's get all the pieces lined up, and I think that's what they're kind of doing with this one. And then obviously because it's Barclay, he develops a fear of spiders from this point, which that'll be interesting when we look at the next Barclay episode, which is Genesis. We've already done Ship in a Bottle, so we're skipping that. So Genesis, let's bear in mind Barclay's scared of spiders and see how that plays out for him in the next episode. But we'll look at that next week. So moving on to DS9 then, the next in the prelude to the Dominion War. We've already had the Dominion mentioned once, and this time, I suppose, what we're getting with this one is the implication, as if the name The Dominion wasn't enough, but this is the first implication that there's something sinister about them. Because in the first one, they could have just been a trading conglomerate, they could have been the Gamma Quadrant version of the Ferengi, but this one... No, the Dominion are definitely definitely more than that is what we find out in this episode. So let's have a look at this one then. So Kira's been a bit slack. She's late with the reports and everything because she's worried about the irrigation on Voyager, which is fairly typical of early DS9 Major Kira. There's always something going off on Voyager that she needs to be worried about, and obviously,
I wouldn't even say it's just early Kira, because this carries on for quite. She gets involved in stuff.
You know what?
Probably through.
You're right, but it's not piddly stuff like irrigation. It's wars and terrorists and stuff like that later on.
Yeah.
Stuff like trade disputes and borders of rivers and irrigation is it's good because it's things that a world that had been through what Voyager had been through would be dealing with, and it's good when DS9 does touch on it.
What I do find odd about this is the Federation wants Voyager to join the Federation and to work towards them getting there. But what aid is the Federation actually giving Voyager?
It's a good question. Yeah.
I almost get the impression that they're not actually giving them aid. They're very much following almost the Prime Directive of non-interference. But why? Because
I think they are at this stage because the reason nominally that the Federation's on DS9 is because Voyager effectively can't run it. Like, they need someone to come in and administer it, but the Federation's not in charge, so Cisco's there to kind of arbitrate stuff. But
but the Federation's there to arbitrate stuff, but the Federation don't appear to actually be sending aid to Voyager.
No, surely
they've got famines and
surely they'd be
and all that. The land is still ruined. Like, we see it in later episode in Chicago where they talk about the reclamators.
Yeah.
There's only a couple of them. Can't the Federation give them some more reclamators to help get all of the planet so it can grow again?
You know what? If the land's barren and stuff, what you could do is you could beam everybody up, fire the Genesis torpedo at it, that'll redo the whole planet for you, then beam it again, be fine. Except it blow up because of the proto matter, but just thinking.
But we do see that they do terraforming on a regular basis for the Federation. And I just get the impression that
I think
they actually they're letting Voyager do it themselves. They're not giving them aid.
No, but I think part of that's probably that the Bajorans have asked for that because they are a very sort of proud people. For anyone watching on the live stream, you can see me trying to fix my pop filter that's just dropped off, but. Anyway, there we go. So, then Kira gets called down to Quark's then. And you've got this Bajoran harp player. And I'm with Quark on this one. I'd be pretty annoyed.
Yeah, he's playing... he's almost playing the theme tune to DS9, which I thought was pretty cool. That is on DS9, so he's playing the theme tune.
Yeah, very sort of meta-textual joke, yeah. And
I'm with you on this. Quark has a good point here.
Yeah, exactly. If he's eating into the profits. I mean, what it reminds me of is my dad told me a story of a pub that he used to go to, and they used to have a jukebox on it with all actual LPs in it. So we're showing his age now. There's probably not many people listening who'll remember LPs or. But anyway, so what they used to do is they found this track, and I think it was he said it was a B-side. I think it was like a Rolling Stones B-side or something. And there was something about the tune of it, and it just put everybody off the drinks. So they used to do it for a laugh, and they'd go put it on and just watch everybody just put the beer down. And that's kind of what's going on here with Quark and this harp player. It's nobody wants to drink because they're all that chilled out. And
they're chilled out and they're enjoying watching it, and that, like, the bar's absolutely packed it. But you can see Quark's point. No one's gambling, no one's drinking, no one's eating. They're just listening to this guy.
And I like that Quark tells us at this point that he monitors his gross profit hourly. Like, it's not just daily or weekly, monthly. It's
now,
like,
to me, that does sound like a very Ferengi thing to be doing, to be monitoring hourly trends.
And the thing is, he says gross profit as well. So I bet what he does is, if takings are down, I bet he reduces everybody's hourly wage to compensate for it. Net profit doesn't suffer as much. And this Bajoran singer guy, harp player, I'll be honest, he gets on my nerves a bit as this episode goes on, because first of all, he's kind of hustling Kira, like, come on, will you have a word with the government and get this? Basically, he wants this festival thing putting on. But he's badgering.
Well, he wants them to rebuild, like, the theatre that he used to play in.
He does, but it's like, she's doing her best, son. You know, she's got more important things to worry about than whether you get your next gig lined up or not. But anyway, she gets saved from him by the ship coming through the wormhole. And we get this alien race. Now, I'm conflicted with this in a number of ways. But they have to be one of the least aesthetically pleasing aliens we've ever had on Star Trek. Like, they look like they've got some sort of skin condition that's... And Quark even says about them being flaky.
Quark even says that they're flaking all over the place.
So they are very off-putting to look at. And I'm not sure whether that detracts from the point the episode's trying to make, because throughout this episode, we get several things where people are stereotyping them. And there's obviously... an analogy here to asylum seekers or refugees.
Yeah, but I was thinking about this, rewatching this, and we're meant to feel really sorry for them and sympathise with them and think they're hard done by. But if you look at it from very early on and all that, when they're walking through the promenade on the way to sickbay, they stop at that shop and they start taking stuff.
This is what I was going to say.
It's obviously a shop, and at this point they can't understand the communication, but they're used to following what a woman says is being in charge. And Kira's taking the objects off them and putting them back down, and they're just grabbing them again. And it's like, well, even if you can't understand the language, you can understand that you're not allowed these.
Exactly.
Yet you're still trying to take it.
This is what I was going to say, because now, I'm not speaking for everyone in the world or anything, but there is a stereotype among a certain demographic who can be very negative towards immigrants or asylum seekers, refugees, and they quite often use very negative language and ascribe negative stereotypes to them. And they'll say things like, they're dirty, they smell, they steal things. And you can see people saying the things about these aliens in this episode. And for that allegory to work, we would have to be shown that they are not those things and that it's just people's prejudices. But as you said, they demonstrably do those things and are those things.
Yeah,
so,
they are physically taking things. that even though, like as I say, even though the universal communicator isn't working at this point, so they can't understand the language, it's quite obvious Kira is taking these things back off them and putting them where they should be. And it's not that they do it once, they keep repeatedly doing it until and their sort of matriarchal figure shouts at them.
So that instead of subverting these negative stereotypes, the way this episode portrays this race is conforming to the negative stereotype, which I'd like to think that's not the message that they were trying to go for, but it's hard to read it any other way when they have them the way they do. It's very strange.
I was left at the end of this, and I don't feel sorry for them at all.
No,
in fact, I think they are really they're really ungrateful people, and I think they're greedy people, and they actually almost as if they think that they're entitled to what they want, regardless of what anyone else.
Yeah, that is the way it all comes across, which is, as I say, I'm
sure that's not what was meant to come across, but that's how it has come across.
And it does, and as I say, it's reinforced with the way they make them look really unappealing. And so it's, what story are you trying to tell? Are you trying to tell a story and give us the message that we shouldn't have negative stereotypes about refugees? Or are you saying, oh, look at these refugees, they're exactly what all the negative stereotypes say they are? That's very much not a Star Trek message.
No, it isn't. I think it's actually. I think this episode is meant to show that you shouldn't be giving them negative opinions to refugees. But I actually think the episode is badly done.
Yeah, exactly, because
it's badly put together. It's
the negative attitudes are purely from what we see in this episode, pretty much justified. There's a couple of instances where, it's maybe taken a little bit too far. Quark's maybe a little bit too judgmental, a little bit too sneering about them. But that's kind of Quark's character.
You expect that from Quark, because if they're going in Quarks and they're not spending money, and we see at another point, I can't remember his name, begins with T. Tojan, is it?
Yes, something like
that. They've been, by this point, they've been shown how replicators work, and they can get food, no problem. And yet he's waiting for someone to leave a table and starts eating the leftovers.
Yeah, a lot of it doesn't make sense. Like you say, I think that's the thing.
And even Nog at that point comments, he goes, don't they know about what replicators are for? And they've been shown the replicators.
Exactly. It's really, really weird. And again, things like the scene where you get Kira brings her that dress, and Kira thinks that she wanted this dress because at the time the universal translator wasn't working, and then she
started pointing to it in the shop, and
exactly, and then Kira takes her it, and again you get this thing where she's just like, "Oh no, it's awful," and
it's awful. I was saying it was hideous. It's sort of like, hold on, at the time you knew that we couldn't understand each other.
Yeah.
So you stopped at a shop to ridicule what they were selling.
Yeah, that's a bit. Yeah.
And the only people you're doing it to are the rest of your clan who can understand you, who are busy trying to steal things from the same shop.
That's true, actually. They really didn't like that shopkeeper.
No, but it's
I've not thought of it quite that way. But I think the purpose of this scene seems to be to establish that there's a bond between Haneek and Kira. But I just don't buy it. Like,
no,
I don't
and it's
feel like they have bonded.
No, and it's like I say, how I look at it. It's like, hold on, when no one could understand you, you stopped at a shop to ridicule what they were selling, while two of your men were busy trying to steal from the place. What were you doing? Running distraction for them?
Yes. There's some good stuff in Nog, though. In the B plot. So you get the first mention of Jake dating a Dabo girl, which does play out, I think, all the way into season 3, that the Marta, the Dabo girl, plays out. And you get a good line from Nog.
This is very weird, though, because, like, how old is Jake in this? What was he, about 10 when they came to DS9? So he's probably only 11, maybe 12.
Yeah, he's too
11
young
or 12,
to and he's
yeah.
And,
like, okay, fair enough. Things are maybe more enlightened in the future, but that still seems very dodgy.
Marta the Dabo girl would probably get Me Too'd now if it was if she lived in the 21st century. But Cisco does have issues with it further down the line, and I think by the time we actually see him with Marta, Cirroc Lofton had grown enough that it didn't look icky.
Yeah.
It is a bit icky.
Yeah, well, Cirroc Lofton is quite a tall guy.
Very
and he actually grew tall very quickly.
Yeah, he shot up. We'll leave that there with the Dabo girl. But Nog has a really good line where Jake says, "Oh, she studies bugs," and he says, "What? She wants to be a chef."
Yeah, I think that's brilliant.
That's a really good line. And Nog gets another good bit where he's in Odo's office and he's looking at the wanted boards, and he reads one out and it ticks a plick or something.
Yeah,
that sounds like it'd be out the guy of the galaxy. Or
no, it sounds like the ninth dimensional being from that Superman's enemy. Mixaticular.
Yes.
Is it Mixaticular process or
something like that? Yeah. And this is when we get the stuff with Quark.
I like it when Nog's asking about him and he's going on about and he almost drops Quark in it about dealing weapons.
Why would Quark know about dealing weapons? So there's some really great stuff. They have a bit about why is his dad not picking him up, and the answer is because we didn't want to pay Max Grodenchik for this episode, so Quark's doing it. But
it's doing the stock count, and I don't like to interrupt.
And then Bajoran musician guy, again, I don't like this guy. So he turns up and he goes, "Ewa, do you want a recording of me?" Like, no.
This is my gift to you.
Yeah, it's a little video of me playing at the big hall, which, Kira, why haven't you got that sorted out yet? I know you're dealing with the refugee crisis, but, and he gives a little bit of a thing. They're trying to sort of link it to Bajol. Oh, we know what it's like to be displaced and everything. And this is where we get into the thing of what planet are they going to go to. So Cisco's found this planet, but Hanit's decided.
Well, I think this is great. Like, we've got 3 million refugees coming from the Gamma Quadrant, and the Federation have gone out of the way and they've found somewhere. I'm assuming it isn't a long way from the wormhole.
Yeah.
Because we know that a lot of the ships are damaged and they're not great. So I'm assuming it's in quite easy travelling distance. And they found them a home that they can have, a planet. They can have this planet, and they don't want it.
Yeah, they have landed on the feet here, really. But they say no. There's yours, our homes. We've looked at it, and it's a planet of sorrow, and that's our prophecy. And I wonder if, to an extent, what they're trying to mirror here, and it might just be because it's in the news at the minute so much, but are we sort of looking at the Arab-Israeli conflict a little bit here? Is that what this is trying to mirror?
Probably because the Americans have been involved in that for since the 70s. Exactly.
So I just wonder if maybe that's what we're angling toward here, but like we've already said, it's so poorly executed in this episode that I'm glad
like
don't really draw it any clearer than that, because that's
like
such
we're meant to feel sorry for this alien race that have been trying to steal we see them scavenging food. We can see by the makeup that they have flaky skin. And I don't know if you notice, in some of the shots, they've got more flakes on the skin than others. So they obviously are losing skin all over the place.
You know, we're not judging on that. If that's what happens with their species,
they've been offered a planet.
Yeah, and they've turned it down because they don't want that planet. They want your planet. And as I say, I'm glad that it doesn't lean too heavily into the Arab-Israeli conflict, because that's such a sensitive situation that if you were going to tell a story that alludes to that, it would need to be a much better script than this, because this is
lot better
muddled in its politics, its morals.
It's obvious what we're meant to think about this episode, but it's badly done.
Yeah.
It's got scenes in it that totally throw you from what they're obviously aiming for.
Yeah, and that's what's so weird about it. It's almost like the script is working on a different thing to the director, and it's anyway. So the musician bloke turns up and he's like, "Oh, give them my condolences. They're not coming to Bajor." And we do find out that Bajor have turned it down. And this is kind of an interesting dilemma, because you can completely see where the Bajorans are coming from. They're like, we have literally just come out of the occupation. We cannot support more people. And
3 million more people.
Nick's argument is, well, we will contribute and you don't have to look after us. But the Bajorans say, no, but we would, if anything happens to us, we will have an obligation.
They're going, like, what if the rains fail again next season and you don't have a crop?
Yeah, and
it's like, you might not be asking for us to help, but we won't be able to sit there and not help you.
Exactly, and that makes
and we can't afford to do that.
And it is a really hard decision for somebody to make. We want to help, but we literally are not in a position where we can.
Yeah. And I'm sure if the Federation had given some aid to Bajor and actually helped refertilise the land,
yes, true,
instead of leaving them to struggle for the last year and a bit.
Yeah,
they probably could have taken these people, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. And so Kira goes to see Haneek again, and Haneek's giving it all this, I feel like I've been betrayed. It's like, in what way? That you came here asking for us to help you. We've put you up, we've let you nick from the shops, we've given you free food, free everything, all your ships are docked here, and
they haven't said, but we also know that from other episodes that when ships are docked there, that the Federation will run repairs on them for free.
Exactly. So
so the ships are probably getting repaired. We've given you a planet.
Yeah, but you've betrayed us because you won't give us your planet, which seems a bit. And then we get this bit tacked on where the little kid nicks a ship, and we don't see any of this because this is DS9.
We do. We see it on a scanner. There's 3 dots.
You're right. Then this won't be the last time DS9 pulls this trick when it runs out of budget. So we see a space battle. Yeah, but there's a few. We see a space battle on a little scanner. Again, it's. I think we're meant to really feel the tragedy of this, But again, it's hard not to think. Right, that kid's been petulant. He's been told
the kid's been
cannot go there. They tell him numerous times to turn back, to stop.
Yeah, they tell him to stop, turn his engine off. He opens fire.
Yeah, exactly.
And we find out the Bajorans didn't even fire his ship after that. They fired across his bow, and it's just because the ship's that in that bad a state that it's exploded because it's caught a radiation leak.
It's really hard to feel too bad for him in this instance. I mean, it's a tragedy.
Well, he
gets killed, but it was very preventable.
He's been in a lot of the episode, and there's nothing throughout the episode to endear him to you.
No, I mean
that you're gonna feel sorry for something bad happening to him.
They try and do it a little bit where they have Jake talk to him, but even then he's like, "No, we don't want to go to this other planet." And
it's like Jake's trying to be friendly. Like they've given you this planet, and I hear it's really good. I bet you're looking forward to it. And he goes, "Do you want to move there?" And it's like, well, no, but I'm not looking for it. Jake's not looking for a new home.
Exactly, that's
Jake has a home.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not. Again, you could almost think, is this sort of an allegory for, you do get these situations where there are refugees and they end up being put up in really poor accommodation, and morally that isn't right, but this is not the case here. They're being offered a good planet with support.
Yeah, we're being told that the planet is a lovely planet, and it's the Federation telling us, and I'm going to believe the Federation.
Exactly. So
this one,
it's not like we're telling a story about, okay, you're offering him a horrible place to live. They're not. They're offering him a good place to live.
We're not dumping you on SETI Alpha 5.
No, exactly.
We're going to leave you there for how many years without checking back on you after SETI Alpha 6 blows up and knocks you out of orbit and turns you into a desert. We're putting you on a nice planet and we're going to check back on you.
Yeah. So they come across as really petulant in just about everything that goes on and ungrateful. And again, you get this final scene with Kira, and some of it's interesting. Like, Kira does say, she says, "Would we have been a burden on you?" And Kira says, "Yes." And clearly Kira's not happy that that's the truth, but for the reasons we've talked about, it is the truth. And Hanique says, "Well, you've made a mistake because, we're great farmers and we would have helped you." And there is a bit of poignancy to that because it's like, maybe they could have done. But it doesn't mean that Bajor's decision was wrong, that they have
to... they're good farmers, but we see it in a later episode of the AS9 with Shakar, which is one mentioned earlier with the not replicators. I can't remember the word.
Rotivators or something.
But and the Bajorans are good farmers, but the land is infertile and needs recovering. Yeah. And there's no evidence that these have the technology to do that.
No, there isn't.
We're great at growing things on fertile soil. Yeah, but they haven't got the fertile soil.
Yeah, it just doesn't land it. Like, okay, if we got to remake this episode now, what you would do is you would have this race be sympathetic. So basically, don't have them nicking, don't have them being ungrateful to everything, but
don't have them mocking what's in the shops when no one else can understand them.
Exactly. And then what you do is you contrive it in such a way that it's Bajor or nothing. It's Bajor or they've got to go back to the Gamma Quadrant and face the Dominion. And then you can have Bajor making the same decision for the same reasons, but that really plays up the tragedy of it. And you can have... I can't believe we've had to say no to them, but we had to do it to protect ourselves. but we may have just sentenced them to death by them going back. And then you've got a really nice, morally grey dilemma that DS9 does so well, and you actually feel something about it. But this one, I hate it because I love DS9, but this episode.
It's really like I'm quite sure that the whole point of this is that we're meant to feel sorry for them.
Yes, I'm sure.
And yet how it's done, it doesn't do that. And the annoying thing is that DS9 is really good at doing these sort of things.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm
generally.
Like you say, I'm certain that when they broke this story in the writers' room, they said, "Let's tell a story about refugees, and Bajor has to turn them away, and the moral implications of that." And I'm sure that was what was intended, but the way it's done just doesn't come off at all. It's when I went back to this one, I remembered not being the biggest fan of this episode, and it's reinforced that rewatching it. And I think, to be honest, we are just giving them the benefit of the doubt because we know how good DS9 usually is. And we know generally where Star Trek stands on issues like this. But there is nothing in this episode to suggest the reading that we're trying to get at. We're trying to find a way for this episode to work, and it really doesn't.
It doesn't. It is a shame because it should it's obvious what the episode should have been, and like you say, what was probably suggested in the writers' room, and it's just done badly. And like you said earlier, it makes you wonder if the director just went in a different direction to the script.
Because the main thing is, if you're trying to portray in a story that prejudice against refugees or itinerant people or whatever it is wrong, you can't do that within the context of a story when you show them to be doing the exact things that they're being criticised for.
Yeah.
With the exception of Quark, who maybe takes it a little bit too far, the things that they are accused of are true. So there's no discordance there. The reason that we should challenge people in the real world who say these things about immigrants or about refugees or about anybody, the reason we should challenge them is because the things they say are usually completely wrong. And if that was the story this episode was telling, great. But it's not. And if they thought it was, they've dropped the ball major on this one.
Yeah, it's one of those that you'd like to actually be able to ask one of the writers what they were trying to get out with this story. What were you trying to do, and
why did it go wrong? But there we go. But we get another little piece of the Dominion puzzle, so we'll pick that up again next week. So next week, as we said, we'll look at Genesis from season 7 of TNG. And we'll be looking at Shadow Play from later in season 2.
There's another interesting link here, because we have it as a female-dominated society.
Yeah.
And all that. And later on we find the head of the Dominion, the head changeling, is a female, or takes on a female persona.
Which as a changeling can be, I suppose. But I'm not thought of that. Maybe that's just kind of a thing in the Gamma Quadrant.
Well, not with other races that we see.
Not necessarily.
These actually, what's the name? Hinker. We have a few regular guest aliens in this episode.
Yeah, true.
Because we have the head Bajoran minister that comes up DS9. Yeah. She's a Vorta in later episodes.
Yeah, she is, you're right, yeah.
We have one of the husbands is the android that goes berserk in Voyager. That kills all his crew. Yeah. And also, Hinker is also in a later episode of Voyager, a season 3 episode.
Well, hopefully they get better
So, like,
to be in than this one.
yeah, well, that one with the, I can't remember what that Voyager one with the android is, but that's a brilliant episode.
Prototype, is it?
No, that's no.
One. Anyway,
I know what you mean with Prototype. It's another Doctor episode.
Oh yeah,
he goes across and it's the guy he plays the hologram.
Right. Yes, I know which one you mean. I can't think of the name. Anyway,
I can't think of its name.
Next week we'll pick up the Barclay saga then, and we'll pick up the Dominion saga again. If you want to get in touch with us in the meantime, we're on Twitter at RetrekPod. You can email us retrekpod@gmail.com, or come and join us on the Facebook group. Just search for Retrek, and we'll have a chat on there. And I think that about does us for this week.
Yeah, we did. There's not been a lot of news. Like, I've avoided certain channels, so I don't know if there's been more screenshots of Picard. There could have been, but I've avoided.
I caught one, but it wasn't.
I avoided the channels. The big news, actually, that has come out this week, that will probably interest a few people, is with the Destination Star Trek.
Yes.
Destination Star Trek UK has been confirmed as November the 11th to 14th of November this year.
There we go. So it's
bad news for Destination Star Trek Germany, which was meant to be happening in June, has been postponed again, and it's not happening until September 2022 now.
Wow. Okay. Go ahead in June, but yeah, that's a long
June
way.
is too early, and the next time they can get it booked into it and everything is September 2022.
Once the convention scene starts up again, a lot of these actors are going to be booked up, but yeah. Anyway, we shall see. So, yeah, that does us for this week. Thanks for trekking with us this time, and we'll see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you. Bye-bye.